Badlands, explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily, joined by Ash Epp on this chilly Wednesday morning. You staying warm, Ash?
Yeah, I'm trying. Definitely trying. It's challenging. But,
What's the temps out there for you?
Yesterday it was 10 degrees, which was warmed up a bit. But I went up to Conifer, so it was even colder because went up. That was why I texted you. You were like, it's 50 degrees here.
43 with wind chill.
How did you ever survive, Brian?
It's the first time in my life I've ever left a hockey game in Florida, and I'm colder outside than I was inside. Yeah.
How was the hockey game?
We lost. It was Star Wars night.
I saw your shirt. Your amazing wife sent me a picture of the shirts you guys got. Those are very cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a good game.
The way for everyone, and it's got Panthers all over it,
and Star Wars characters and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it was a good game. It was fun. We had a good time. Went with a bunch of friends. They'd had tickets for a long time. Christy was supposed to remind me over the weekend about the game, and she did not. So that was why we had to cancel book club. Unfortunately, I made a commitment, and if I would have not gone to that, she would have killed me. So. Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I was actually kind of relieved because I was going to be rushing to get back to do it in time, and because because we canceled the show yesterday, I was able to take my two of my boys, because I have 3, well 4 if you count the big one. But we went to dinner and had just a wonderful night with me and my boys. It was awesome.
Very nice, very nice. Well, it is expected to be 31 degrees here on Friday and Saturday of this week. So I've never seen sub-freezing temperatures in South Florida. So global warming
is weird.
Totally weird. Yeah.
Because we'll hear like, oh, it snowed in Florida before. Well, like flurries in the Panhandle, the top of the Panhandle. Yeah. No, that is weird.
I think we did get snow in Miami in like the early 80s. There was like one time there was snow. So, all right, guys, let's jump into our sponsors for today. First up, guys, My Shroom Vibe.
Hey there, Earthlings. I'm here on the streets of New York to tell you about something that's literally out of this world. You know, traveling between dimensions really takes it out of you. But I've found the perfect solution. My Shroom Vibe can now be your Shroom Vibe. Elevate your frequency. Get microdose capsules, gummies, and chocolate bars at myshroomvibe.com. Use code BADLANDS for 10% off your order. Trust me, galaxy hopping demands balance, and ours comes from Mother Nature. Organic, not synthetic. It's the real deal. Cy Lee, if you know what I mean. Check it out. Your frequency will thank you. Visit myshroomvibe.com. Organic goodness, not synthetic. Use code BADLANDS.
All right, myshroom.com, promo code BADLANDS. Check it out. They've got all sorts of things their good things and psychotropic things and not psychotropic things, just brain function things. So check them out. If you have not done so yet, smash that thumbs up, please. Helps us out tremendously. And let's jump into our first story, just an update on the weather. Power grid for 67 million on edge as dire cold follows the storms. And just a heads up to people anywhere from Chicago to New Jersey, PJM Interconnection, which serves 67 million people in that range, issued a grid emergency for Tuesday and warned demand may exceed record levels for winter. With another burst of frigid air expected on Friday, electricity demand could continue to test the system through the end of the month. The storm has already knocked out about 12% of the country's natural gas production, limiting supplies to power plants and home furnaces that burn the fuel. PJM's level 1 emergency means every power plant that serves the region must be ready to run at full capacity. The Energy Department has authorized some plants to run at full tilt, even if they exceed emissions limits. PJM has also asked for authorization to tap backup generators as data centers if needed. So be prepared. Your power might go out. Why? Like, when you guys are furnaces attached to power?
They're heating.
Yeah,
right?
but don't they like burn fuel like like a pilot light? Is there electricity involved? I've never had a furnace, so I have no idea how they function.
Well, I'm a woman, so I also don't know how they function.
Wow. Well, that's not.
I've literally never done anything with our furnace. That's my husband's department.
Well, I was just wondering, like, I understand power going out, you lose the creature comforts, but you would think that furnace
says some are electric.
Some are electric. Wow.
I know the pilot light thing though. So
that sucks.
I think twice in my entire adult life, the pilot light has gone out, and had to call the husband to fix it, obviously.
I saw Karen's post yesterday about the woman in Michigan that froze to death after being turned away from a homeless center. Or whatever it was, like a halfway house type thing, because she got there too late and they turned her away and they found her frozen to death. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
That was in Michigan.
That's horrible.
Crazy. All right.
But hang on, but let's not move off this topic, because if you're in the tinfoil studio.
Yes.
And I am generally always wearing a tinfoil hat. This is a weird bit of weather we're having, huh? Right? This cold snap. So the thing that I've been thinking of, just to go all the way with it, is we've heard from people like General Quast and others about this energy revolution that's coming, right? That we're going to have we're going to power the world in a different way. Well, what would the journey to get to that point, that tipping point of where the change is required and people are demanding it, where people are like, we would need nuclear power now, or whatever. It ends up being, pull power out of the sky, whatever we're doing. What would need to happen to get the collective mind to demand the changeover? Because if we're going to do it into, we want a rapid transformation into the golden age, then these things are going to happen quickly. You're going to have some dramatic moments, methinks, and this could be one of them.
So are we going full blown weather engineering? Because I saw somebody was talking about black snow, I think on AMS.
Yeah. So who has the power over the weather engineering apparatus? I was actually wondering, because global warming, right, was the thing, and then it was climate change and whatnot, and keeping, the kind of yo-yo of the natural world, unpredictability. We never know what's going to happen. Weathermen notoriously terrible at their jobs. What if they turned all of that off, and this is how the world really is?
Well, I mean, go back to President Trump during his first term with the Sharpie and the hurricanes, right? And that played out. This is the first year that I can remember in my lifetime, in 42 years on this planet. This is the first year that I can remember where we didn't even have a hurricane threat in Florida. Like
Crazy.
Nothing even came close to us. And I don't think any hurricanes hit the U.S. at all this year. We had the one in Jamaica.
I'm gonna look that up.
I don't believe that we had a hurricane hit the U.S. this
You're
entire
talking the 2025, 2026 hurricane season, right?
Yep. Well, 2025, it's only 6 months from June to November.
Okay.
So it would be 2025. And yeah. Didn't somebody in the Mediterranean just get hit with a hurricane like Italy? Italy got hit. Sicily got hit with a hurricane or a cyclone, I think they call it over there. I saw all my Sicilian family were posting about this. So if you know the butterfly effect, right? If a butterfly flaps its wings off the coast of Africa, it could cause, you know, a hurricane chaos, you know, in the United States. What if pulling all the resources from you know, not resources, but if there is weather manipulation, they were able to divert this and, you know, make this a relatively quiet hurricane season. What if it picked up in some other region of the world and Sicily gets hit with something which I've never heard of?
Yeah. So you are correct. 0 U.S. hurricane landfalls in 2025. The only named storm to directly hit the U.S. was Tropical Storm Chantal, which made landfall in South Carolina in early July, brought heavy rain and flooding inland. There were several other storms that churned offshore and created weather, but we had that was Hurricane Aaron is the one named here. The season produced 13 named storms, including 5 hurricanes and several major Category 3 hurricanes, but steering patterns kept the most intense system offshore and directed them away from U.S. coasts.
So, you know, what I'm saying here about the hurricanes not being here and the one that just hit Sicily or the storm that just hit Sicily. And then you go back a couple years and I think this was like 2020, maybe 2019 during Trump's first administration, when in the United States, we were having these crazy cold patterns. Dallas was like freezing. California was like bone dry. They weren't getting any water or anything. But then at the same exact time, in their dry season, you have monsoons and landslides from all the rain that they were getting in China out of season. So, you know, you just see these kind of like weird, bizarre weather patterns, and they chalk it up. They'll say, "Oh, well, it's climate change, right? It's not global warming anymore." They've you know, opened that Overton window.
Too narrow. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Climate change or global warming really boxed you in, you know?
Right. Yeah, and you know, if global warming, if the country is getting persistently warmer, that is fuel for hurricanes. So it makes 0 sense that we had 0 hurricanes, you know, on the east coast of the United States. Well, we had the tropical storm because if the oceans are getting warmer, that's more fuel for the hurricanes. I think this season I did actually see something. I saw another thing weird this year, and that is a hurricane turned around mid-trip across the Atlantic and hit Africa. Never seen that either. Yeah, it hit some island nations, African island nations.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird, Brian, that at the moment we here in the U.S. sort of feel like it's either imminent, the storm is either imminent or upon us. There were actually no storms upon us.
Very weird. Very weird. All right, so let's go ahead and move. We'll go over to the geopolitics real quick because I mean, outside of Minneapolis, there isn't a whole crap ton going on in the United States. But
4 speed round. Let's go.
I wanted to cover this yesterday with Gordon. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. This is from the Associated Press. NATO chief wishes good luck to those who think Europe can defend itself without U.S. help. And I mean, I think we've all seen the writing on the wall that NATO and the United Nations, NATO specifically, are on their way out, and that the United Nations may be following suit. Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, insisted on Monday that Europe is incapable of defending itself without U.S. military support, and that it would need to double its current military spending targets in order to be able to do so. He says, quote, "If anyone thinks here that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the U.S., keep on dreaming. You can't." Quote, a quote unquote framework for a deal over the mineral rich island was reached for Greenland. They were talking about this with Mark Rutte's help, and that, you know, was kind of what's kicked off this whole infighting amongst NATO. Like, where's Canada going to side? Who's going to go against the United States under Article 5 if the United States sends military forces to Greenland? Well, that all came, you know, to heel, and President Trump it looks like is going to be successful in those negotiations. But that's what kind of kicked this off with the NATO the World Economic Forum summit over there. And it says here, at a NATO summit in July, European allies, with the exception of Spain and Canada, also jumped in with the European nations, agreed to spend 3.5% of their GDP on core defense and another 1.5% on security-related infrastructure, for a total of 5% by 2035. But Rutte pushed back and said, if you really want to go it alone, forget that you can get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You will have to build up your own nuclear capability. That cost billions and billions of euros. Rutte said that without the United States, Europe, quote, would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the U.S. nuclear umbrella. So, hey, good luck. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so interesting, kind of shift. We think about, if we go into peace, what does that mean for the military industrial complex, and how will they ever survive, right? But if peace is achieved through every nation's strength, then they still have quite a bit of work to do, and to get Europe to be able to defend itself. Now, we're not going to pay for that, and it shouldn't be subsidized by any other country. The whole point, I think, is that they need to defend themselves, right? I mean, Europe can pool its resources and figure out if they want to do an alliance to defend themselves or if they want to individually fund. I don't really care. The thing that I think is interesting, and this is a similar dynamic that we see domestically in blue states, is that without the U.S. subsidies, they're going to have to make economic decisions that they haven't had to make. They're going to have to make economic decisions about their social safety nets, about their, 3-day work weeks, and, everybody takes the month of August off, and all of the things that Europe is kind of in the private world known for, that are subsidies from their government, that they have that money, if the money is real at all, to provide those subsidies, because we've been paying for their national defense. And so I think you can see, I can see a future where this defense changeover leads to the social change that, populists and non-socialists in Europe might want. But, that's up to them to decide. Our role in this is to stop subsidizing them. So good on us.
Yeah, I think, and this is probably one of the reasons why we're seeing such a buildup right now in the United States in this color revolution. I think a lot of this is backed by the globalists, in my opinion. And I think we'll find that out, over time, that a lot of this is backed by the globalists, because this is their desperation. This is, they have to tie President Trump up in domestic issues like this rather than allow him to continue, which he's still doing anyways. He's still continuing on with his geopolitical agenda. But they have to stop this, and they have to, ultimately, I think their goal would be to obviously get him impeached and removed. And that is why I think this 2026 election cycle, the midterm elections, is going to be one of the most fraudulent elections. If the checks and balances aren't in place, which I'm hoping that they are. But
Brian has always predicted that they were going to steal these midterms.
Well, I always predicted that we're going to see something significant right before the midterms that would make it much more difficult to steal. And when you look at 2024, one of the things I think that really put them on their heels was President Trump coming out in huge support of absentee voting for Republicans, or in early voting for Republicans, and that took away their advantage in that regard, in being able to muster up pure Democrat support in the early vote. And so I don't know what the pivot's going to be this year. And whatever it's going to be will be last minute, probably talking like August, September, maybe, and maybe even a little July, August, let's say around there. So we'll see what happens. But this is desperation. And I think it's flowing over. It's overflowing into Minneapolis and what we're seeing in domestic policy. And that is their desperation to remain relevant, because Europe is the one person, whether you have, the Board of Peace,
Europe
NATO, is the one entity. Okay. Jeez, of all the things, Europe is in the middle of all of this. Europe, if the Sovereign Alliance, the Donroe Doctrine, the Board of Peace comes to full fruition, Europe is the biggest loser in this by far, because they have been sucking at the teat of America for, 4 or 5 decades now. So,
but don't you think that also it spells liberation for the people of Europe?
yes and
It's
no.
gonna be painful in the short term. It's gonna be painful for all of us in every nation in the short term as we, unwind the tentacles of globalism and restore. But it has to be done.
Yeah. So again, I think that a lot of people in Europe and here in the United States are brainwashed to somehow think that Russia will just take over all of Europe, or that China will somehow take over all of Europe, or I don't even know, maybe the United States. They did. Denmark, I think, made us a national security threat or something.
Well,
To
we
them.
are. So, I mean,
Well, this was before the Greenland really
how
kicked.
dare you call us what we are?
I meant a national security threat to them specifically, but
Yeah, I know. I think that's because they view Greenland as one of their nation's assets, and so we're going to take it, and that is a national security threat to them. But it's like that Dave Chappelle sketch. What are you going to do? Attack us with your army, Denmark?
Well, that's exactly the point. Is they have nothing
Yeah.
without the United States, and so we'll see. Let's jump into this article. We'll stay geopolitical, and I think this is the last article I've got on geopolitics. From Reuters, U.S. has told Ukraine it must sign peace deal with Russia to get security guarantees, according to sources. Now, there's totally conflicting sources here. The Financial Times, on one hand, reports that the Trump administration signaled to Ukraine that U.S. security guarantees depend on Kyiv agreeing to a peace deal, likely requiring it to cede the Donbass region to Russia. But the source who spoke to Reuters said that the United States is not telling Ukraine what has to be in the peace deal, and that is misleading to suggest that Washington is trying to force Ukraine into territorial concessions to Russia. Zelensky said on Sunday that a U.S. document on security guarantees for Ukraine was 100% ready, and that Kyiv is now awaiting a time and place for it to be signed. Ukraine is increasingly uncertain whether Washington will commit to security guarantees, saying that the U.S., quote, stops each time the security guarantees can be signed. Why do they get security guarantees from the United States? They should be going to Russia for security guarantees. Like, here's Donbass, and you're our big brother to the east, and we need you to protect us. Or you can go to Europe and ask them, can you guys protect us? Because Mark Rutte said they can't even protect themselves. So
yeah, I think if there's one thing that this war has accomplished, and certainly for me, I think for a lot of people, but Volodymyr Zelensky has made me hate Ukraine. Sorry, Ukrainians. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but that little troll, like, he has made me absolutely not care whatsoever that happens to that globalist proxy state.
yes, I agree with that. The global sentiment behind Ukraine, if you're not, a neocon simp or a brainwashed retard, is that Ukraine, and it's unfortunate because I'm sure Ukrainians are splendid people, but it's made it out to be that it is a corrupt nation. It's always been a very corrupt nation, but
yeah, and I don't hate Ukrainians, except Zelensky. I certainly he's on the list, but it's the same kind of feeling that I have towards Canada. Somebody said on I forget, I think it was Only Lands or whatever show we were on, where somebody said that Ash just hates Canadians. No, actually, I think Canadians are largely delightful people. There's my grandparents are Canadian. I hate Canada because Canada is a globalist proxy state that is basically putting the Kingdom of Britain right on our border and acting like an asshole to our faces. And that's a problem. And Ukraine is doing the same thing, right? The same thing, and up to where Putin invaded was kind of in the same posture, and that needs to end. That that having the kind of the proxy entity that's going to serve as an antagonist to the superpower in the region, that's it's obvious now. That dynamic is obvious that that's what's happening, and that needs to end. And yeah, I mean, but the war, like the war in Ukraine, oh my God, we need to give security guarantees to the Ukrainians. Nope. No, we don't. This has gone on long enough. And watching the negotiations stall out. How many times has Volodymyr Zelensky been in a position to sign a deal and backed out and shown his ass? You and I played that Mr. Peepers clip from Saturday Night Live where Chris Kattan acts like a monkey and just throws everything everywhere. That's Zelensky in my mind. And he, as the representative of Ukraine, has really stripped me of my entity, of my empathy for that entity.
So to the China, and we'll get back to the Ukraine thing, but the China thing is interesting. And I do believe that once the deal and the dust has settled around Greenland, that President Trump is going to turn his sights to Canada. Of course, we saw, the Carney, the shot that President Trump took, the warning that he gave to Carney at Davos during his speech, the only person he mentioned by name. Mark, you better think about it next time, right? Like Will Smith, keep my wife's name out your mouth. That's basically what Trump did to Mark Carney at that speech. And then Carney turns around and starts negotiating this, huge deal with China. Well, this is what I think President Trump is going to rely on. I think it's called the Foreign Investments Protection Act in Canada. And I did some reporting on this back in maybe like 2021, somewhere around. It might've been like around the trucker protests. And the Foreign Investment Protection Act allows any foreign country to defend militarily, if necessary, its own investments in a foreign country. And so all the infrastructure throughout Canada, whether it's Huawei or whoever it is that has, the electronic and technical infrastructure throughout that country, can be defended by China. And I think that is going to be one of the biggest things that Plants Heel said, did Carney stop the China deal? I don't think he did. Last I heard, it was still going through. But even if it doesn't, there's still, they're still rife with Chinese investment in Canada. And their whole infrastructure was switched over from their own local company to Huawei. It bought them out. So I think that is going to be what President Trump is going to use to justify whatever he ends up doing. I have no idea what his intentions are, and it'd probably be something more in line with Matt Ehret in terms of, because he knows everything about Canada. That guy's a genius when it comes to this stuff. So
yeah, and he agrees with me that it's not real.
Canada's not real.
Yep.
What do you mean? You got to define that. Carney has been back. Okay, so that's a good thing. At least we still got the big stick, so that's good. We can be loud and have a big stick.
Yeah, Burning Bright called Mark Carney kind of being final boss in the hemisphere. When he was put into his position first in the leading the party, and then being elected as prime minister. Burning Bright had called that this kind of this exact dynamic was going to go down. So well done.
All right, let's jump into this post here from Che Bo. Says, quote, and this is a Zelensky quote, my position on our territories remains unchanged. Ukraine will not give up its territories. We need to find a compromise. Well, compare that with what this here from Deputy Prime Minister of Italy, and what's his name? Matteo Salvini. Finally, a country with a name unique to its own language. Check this out, and it's in Italian, so I'll read the captions. Godfrey says, we've heard Zelensky, who, after all the money, after all the effort, after all of the aid, still has the nerve to complain. My friend, you are losing the war. You are losing men. You are losing credibility and dignity. Sign the peace agreement as soon as possible. Sign the peace agreement as soon as possible. You have to choose between defeat and rout. So Italy's always been, Meloni's always been favorable to President Trump. So there is that. But Europe's getting sick of it, man. You have Rutte on one hand saying you guys got to pay 10% if you want to be able to sustain yourselves and have the same protections that you were afforded under NATO with the United States. If you want to maintain that, you got to go up to 10%. But also, you need to keep funding this war to the tune of billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. And by the way, you're also getting your asses kicked over there. Yeah. This has been something. I mean, I don't know Is it money laundering? Is it, what is it? Is it some sort of globalist agenda? Whatever the case might be, anybody with half a brain knew that Ukraine had no leg to stand on in this war. Like, talk to Putin. What do you want? What's going on here? If those people in the East Donbass want to become Russian, so be it. Let them become Russian. Because the alternative is you lose half your population to war. So,
yeah. Sorry, I'm dealing with a militant Canadian in the chat.
Oh, Rubio's testifying on the Venezuelan intervention right now. There you go. Okay. So real quick, before we get into some of the other stories, we're going to get back into the United States now. So let's go ahead and talk about just briefly this story here from Fox News. Virginia judge voids redistricting push, rules lawmakers overstep the authority. So this is, the continuation of the gerrymandering that, has been threatened if President Trump did what he did down in Texas, or not if President Trump did, but if Texas decided to redraw their maps, everybody else was threatening, oh, we're going to redraw our maps and Democrats will blah, blah, blah. This is a victory, but it's not the victory that we think it is, because the judge, it's concerning what the judge says in here. Let me just read this real quick. A Virginia Circuit Court judge struck down the General Assembly approved redistricting amendment, ruling that lawmakers overstepped their authority during a 2024 special legislative session and violated constitutional requirements tied to elections over and voter notice. The lawsuit focused on whether lawmakers could take up a redistricting related constitutional amendment during a special session initially convened to address budget matters, and whether the General Assembly followed its own rules when expanding the scope of that session. So this wasn't about whether or not they have the authority to do the redistricting. It had nothing to do with how the redistricting was done. It simply had to do with them bringing it up in a special session that was not intended for that purpose. And that's all it was. So it's a victory because it kicks the can down the road, but it doesn't have anything to do with gerrymandering itself specifically. Good.
No, I don't have any.
Oh, okay. You look like you want to jump in. So now this is the part that was concerning to me. The decision also addressed when a constitutional amendment may be validly advanced under Virginia law, rejecting arguments that an election occurs only on election day rather than during early voting. And I think that's significant right there. Depending on how specifically the judge worded it, the judge saying that the election is the whole entire time frame that the election takes place and not election day. So now he did, ostensibly change the word from election day to election era or period, whatever you want to term it. And I'm not a fan of that, even though it's just a Virginia state court or county court.
Yeah. I mean, it needs to be election day. We have proven why it needs to be election day. It's clear. I mean, here in my state, which I won't say the name of because it's too early to drink. We have like a month.
I got Irish coffee.
Yeah, we have like a month of early voting. And, then there's the 3 to 4 weeks of curing and figuring out what the results really are after the fact. And if the races change, it's fine. Everybody's moved on. So nobody even pays attention to the news. They will if a presidential race changes 3-4 weeks after the election. People will care about that. But a local seat in your legislature, county commissioner seat, a ballot measure that's recounted, by the time those things in our current construct are decided, we had a couple seats flip in this past the 2024 election. Here in my state, we had a couple of seats in the General Assembly flip after that long post-election period. And, there was a small group of people that were like, holy cow, everything just changed. And but the majority of people have moved on and they know that. It's the same reason, I think, in my opinion, right? The same reason that we have the legal constructs around elections set up in the way that they are, because there's a very small window where everybody's watching and everybody cares, and you can't mess stuff up in that window. It's got to seem like we have, this is our democracy, and it is it's what makes us so great is our democracy, and all of those, stories that our democracy is so great that we have to spread it around the world. We have to go invade everybody else and give them democracy, right? That's what we're told. But there's a very small window where that is the normal. Outside of that window, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. And what are you, a sore loser? And why are you still talking about this? This is over. and that's on purpose. That's intentional.
Well, it's not us spreading our democracy around the world. It's Venezuela that's spreading our democracy around the world. So make sure.
Yeah.
Make
Well,
sure
yeah. I saw a thing this morning in one of the election chats that I'm in that is basically positioning North Korea as Iraq's Venezuela. And I meant to send it to you. I don't think I did, but we can probably talk about that on Friday. Yeah.
Oh man,
I was like, oh my God, North Korea is Iraq's Venezuela. This is awesome.
That's epic. Ironically, almost every country that we try and exert our democracy via elections on, they resist it. You know, like we sent those monitors from the Intelligence Permanent HPSCI House Permanent Select Intelligence Committee to Honduras, and Honduras has single day voting, no mail-in ballots, voter ID with biometric identifiers, which, you know, some people get concerned about that. You know, it is what it is. We have real ID and all that shit here already. Once that box is open, you're not putting it back in. But yeah, their elections are significantly more secure than ours, just based on those concepts alone. So, all right, let's jump into this story here from the New York Post. Gavin Newsom shoots down claims of $236 million program for California's mentally ill that has just helped 22 people in 4 years. 22 people, 4 years. To be completely fair, not that I'm siding with Gavin Newsom here, I tried to find the report that this article cites. I read this article. I read the original source article, which was from the Daily Mail, and I cannot find that report anywhere to read. Now, that was in prep this morning, which is, you know, hasty to say the least. So I will dig a little bit deeper, and if I find the actual report, I'll get some clarification, because it is a little bit interesting how they word this. It says that program was designed to help those with severe mental illness who bounce between homelessness and jail. Newsom's CARE Court, C-A-R-E, that's an acronym, CARE Court, was billed as a quote-unquote completely new paradigm to get the mentally ill off the streets and into treatment, with up to 12,000 people expected to benefit. But only 22 people have been sent to treatment over the past 4 years, after state analysis found that up to 50,000 could be eligible for that program. The 22 court-ordered cases were among roughly 3,000 petitions filed statewide as of October. Of those, only 706 were approved, including 684 voluntary agreements that never intended to meet the program's goal. CARE Court, now this is what Newsom's team said, CARE Court has helped thousands of Californians into care to recover, not 22. Even under the most narrow definition, court-ordered treatment plans, which is one of the many treatment outcomes, the number is 600 plus and growing. That's not a win right there, man.
What's the investment?
$236 million.
$236 million to help 600 people?
That's $300 million. It's $350,000 per person to help them. This goes back to what me and Chris talk about all the time, because we've covered California's homelessness crisis for a while. And, you know, Chris talks about this one program they had out there that came out to like $750,000 per homeless person housed. And they weren't housed in the $750,000 home. You know, some of these places were like tents in the middle of an abandoned parking lot. You know, they had a community wash station and food every night, and that was it. And they had a tent to sleep in, which, you know, in Southern California is not the end of the world. It's pretty beautiful weather. And if I could live in a tent without having all the bullshit that we have to deal with on the daily, you know,
man. You don't need a shelter or a home. You live in Southern California. Just grab a tent. You're fine. Stop complaining.
I'm saying, you know, there are homeless people out there who choose to be homeless because they're burdened by nobody. They have no responsibility other than to live. And I'm not saying it's maybe they got pushed into that decision to be homeless and they eventually, flipped on that. But I mean, it is what it is. But 750,000 for the homeless there. So we're looking at like 350,000 per person for this court. And that's if we believe the 600 number. This is why I want to read the report to see what exactly that 236 million funds. Does it fund the court itself, or does it fund the programs that the court recommends or orders that they go to? it's very vague, and neither New York Post nor Daily Mail did a very good job at articulating that. So it is what it is, man. Speaking of fraud, Benny Johnson, 2 days in a row, got to give it to him. He had Ilhan Omar's winery on yesterday. Now he's got Burchett disclosing even more fraud. And this is exactly what me and Ghost talked about yesterday when we said the reason that they won't prosecute this fraud is because they are all fucking doing it. They're all doing it. Okay, most, because, of course.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
It was Star Wars night last night. So I'm not going to say all, but a lot. Check this out.
You are, as Doge chairman, going to pick up the ball and continue the work when it comes to what seems like a massive scandal, which are big federal buildings owned by members of Congress that are leased out to the federal government. I mean, private buildings owned by members of Congress, leased back to the federal government.
Yeah.
And so that's like the snake eating its tail, right?
That is the tip of the iceberg. That just shows you my frustration with this thing. I mean, anywhere you look, we've got to not be the shotgun approach, because that's where we'll be neutralized. We got to focus in on just a few things. The first thing, I think we'll have something around IRS time. What's the big complaint with the IRS, outside of the fact they're stealing your money, is that you can't ever get to them. Their technology is not intermingled. I found out that through government duplication, I've got a chart. It's just the craziest looking thing. And it shows, and my staff has uncovered basically over $1 trillion of just simple duplication within these departments that nobody is willing to tackle. It's not sexy, but we're going to tackle it. And we're going to show it to the American public, and hopefully they'll back us when we go to change the structure of government. And that is the tip of the iceberg. That just shows you my frustration with this thing. I mean, anywhere you look, we've got to not be the shotgun approach, because that's where we'll be neutralized. We got to focus in on just a few things. The first thing, I think we'll have something around IRS time. What's the big complaint with the IRS, outside of the fact they're stealing your money?
Why is that doubling down now, right?
Is that you can't ever get to them. Their technology.
Yeah, that's doubling down there. Okay, so that was kind of weird that he clipped that in twice. So when we saw Doge early on, one of the biggest kind of revelations that we had, besides the Social Security database having 440 million people in it, despite the country allegedly only having 330 million, was these federal buildings that were completely empty. And you got to start wondering if Doge was just kind of laying down the foundation for an expose like this. That segment does start with saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guess, was on a committee that was investigating this, and the guy said, "Yeah, they're doing this." And Burchett says the ball stopped there; it didn't go any further. The snake eating its own tail is the perfect analogy for that, because they're the ones that make appropriations. They're the ones that can force the president, apparently, to pay those appropriations as they're dispersed, and they're benefiting from it. And I don't know if, again, this is preliminary reporting. This is just Burchett kind of laying down the basic facts. Are they doing this with their name? Are they doing this through shell companies? Are they doing this through loved ones and family members? You look at Ilhan Omar using her husband to her third husband, not the brother one, the other husband.
They're all her brother. Let's be honest.
This guy's clearly not her brother. Maybe
oh,
like
he is a white guy, right? She's married to a white guy now. Yeah,
he could be a beard. Who knows?
Could still be her brother. You don't know.
Could be. But the bottom line is, how are they doing this? And you got to go back now and look at Doge and look at some of the other things that they were pointing out. And I think the Social Security database, they put all this out there to allow people to do their own kind of research on why this is happening, right? Why are all the federal buildings empty? Not because maybe it was because of the telenetworking, telework, whatever it's called, where you work from home on the computer. Maybe it was because of that. Or maybe they just rented these buildings out and leased these buildings out and said, well, it's an empty building. My friend owns it. Let's go ahead and lease it out to him. What are we going to put in there? Nothing. Doesn't matter. Nobody's ever going to check. We'll give it some obscure federal name, the subcommittee, the subdepartment of the DHS, I don't know, Monsanto version. Who knows? Just come up with some obscure name nobody's ever going to check until they actually do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to launder money, right? To have all of those buildings in place. It could be that they were full at one point, and over the past 25 years, with the digital revolution and everything, telework has become a thing. At COVID, it became the thing, right? Everybody was doing it, and then it has been, not just in government but in the private sector as well, really hard for corporations and for authorities to get people to go back to work. Because during COVID, for 2 years, essentially, you taught people that they can do all aspects of their job from their homes. And, we all figured it out. We're all in this together. We all figured it out, right? Politicians got crazy wealthy off of Zoom stock that year. And they, taught everybody how to do their jobs from home. Not everybody, right? Obviously, there's people that can't do work from home. But for the laptop class, and the bureaucratic class, they're not going to want to go back into a building to sit on Zoom calls with people from, another city. Like, why can't I just do that at home? It's been impossible. But they don't want to let those properties go. One, because they're very valuable, and two, because they are an excellent way to launder money.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be your opinion. It still could be an excellent way to
asserting that they're laundering money is my opinion.
I mean, if they have the speech and debate clause, they can kiss my ass. I can say what I want about them.
Yes, we don't have the speech and debate clause. We should have the First Amendment.
You have the First Amendment.
Yeah. And I think, I went to court and presented a First Amendment defense for election denialism and won. So I think that the First Amendment still holds in the United States of America, but there is process is the punishment aspect to that, right? Yes, the First Amendment still holds and you have that right, but they will destroy your life for 2.5 years, making you prove it, right? I listened to yesterday when Caleb and I were driving, we listened to the John Kiriakou Joe Rogan interview. Did you ever watch that?
I watched. I think that's the one I did watch. He's the CIA whistleblower, right? About the flights. I watched the Tucker one. I didn't watch the Joe Rogan one.
It was really good. I would highly recommend it. And he talks about how John Brennan, I've never been, by the way, just listening to that yesterday, I've never been more convinced that is going to come back around, because that guy has gotten no justice for what was done to him. It's been proven that he was correct about the torture program. And John Brennan specifically, according to his telling of the story, ruined his life for it. They charged him with espionage, and the CIA people in Brennan's office were like, man, we don't, or the DOJ people or whoever it was, like, we don't think he committed espionage. And Brennan's like, yeah, charge him anyway and make him defend it. And so why, Brian, do we have weaponization of government as kind of a commonly understood construct now? Because of President Trump, right? Because of what happened. President Trump put that concept in our right, and we can see it everywhere. We certainly saw a lot of it during the Biden administration, but the reality is that it's been going on for a long time. Yep. And when you have political actors that will wield the power and force of the United States federal government against their ideological and personal enemies to settle scores, and that's treason. And particularly when they're doing it, or specifically when they're doing it for foreign interests, like, we don't want to get out of Afghanistan, so we need to, weaponize the government in this way against person X, right? Those kinds of things. Yeah, man. I think it's going to come back around. I think that John Kiriakou is going to be or there's a possibility that he'll be a witness to John Brennan's trial on weaponization of government and treason.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Let's go ahead and jump into this assassination attempt. Did you hear? There was an assassination attempt on Ilhan Omar.
Abolishment of the agency. ICE cannot be reformed. It cannot be rehabilitated. We must abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. I don't know.
Oh my God, he sprayed something on her.
You deserve better actors.
What do you think about this?
No. You need to go get checked.
I think it's fake.
You need to go get checked.
And she's like, no, I must continue speaking to the people. Just let me speak, please. And the guy's like, no, you have to go get checked. No, please let me speak. Let's play the rest of it. We get to see the dog and pony show.
No, we will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with it.
Don't know what he sprayed you with.
That's whatever it is smells so bad. She needs to go get checked.
It smells so bad.
That's what they want.
It's not about him, Ilhan. It's not about him. It's about your safety. No, he sprayed something on you. You need to go get checked. Yeah, and it smells terrible.
We're going to keep talking. Just give me 10 minutes. I beg you.
Please don't let them have the show.
Do they give her 10 more minutes? I never watched this far.
I don't know.
Please don't let them have the show. Here is the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand.
They are going to let her keep talking.
We
Okay,
are
that's
Minnesota.
fake. Yeah. There is no way that her security would allow her to continue after she was just sprayed with something. They don't know what it is. It smells bad. He's the guy that allegedly sprayed her was very, appeared to be hostile. This is a quote unquote act of terrorism. There's no way that they let her keep talking after that.
I agree. Now, this is what everybody's pointing out. And it is very,
we're doing the look.
Yeah. Watch.
Resign or face impeachment.
Yeah.
I mean, she looks right at him briefly, just like a nod. And the key word is she must resign or impeachment. So that's the message that everybody is going to see, because they make sure that, that's where the recording starts. Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. She gives the nod, and literally at the same exact time, the guy gets up, throws something on her in the most retardedly horrible acting. It just, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is this a way to garner sympathy and say your rhetoric is leading to the attack on her life because we just found out that her husband's $5 million winery, is the most successful business in the history of business, went from $1,500 or $15,000 or whatever it was to $5 million in the course of 2 years. There's no, Benny Johnson yesterday had the expose. I don't know if you saw this, but the building is not that's listed as the address is not the winery's name. There's no product on their website. You can't order the product. The phone number doesn't work. Like, nothing about the company makes any sense whatsoever. And, here we go. And now we get an assassination attempt on her by a guy spraying water that smells bad.
Assassination attempt?
That's what they're calling it. That's what they're calling this.
Well, then, okay. So if take them at their word, right? If that's an assassination attempt and they allowed her to stand there and keep speaking, they didn't physically. That big dude that's like, no, man, you going out here. He should have picked her up and taken her out of the room. And if this was a real security incident, he would have.
Mm-hmm.
He would have removed her from the room and taken her to get you, because when the principal is attacked, they're no longer calling the shots. She doesn't have the right. She's no longer in a position after she's been attacked. She's no longer in a position to say, no, I don't want to do that. Her security takes over at that point and secures the situation and makes sure that she's safe. That's in theory, how all of that works. But they just let her keep speaking. We got Jussie Smollett. We got Bubba Wallace. We got Yemi Mobolade out here in Colorado Springs. I don't know if folks know who that is, but he's the guy that had the burning cross in front of his campaign sign during the Colorado Springs mayoral campaign. And it turned out that a local activist is the one who that was on his side, is the one who did the burning cross. And they were like chatting about how he was going to take care of the the gap in the results before the election. So the mayor never got in trouble, but the guy that allegedly burned his cross and defamed his campaign sign did. And the demand for hate crimes and terrorism outweighs the supply, so they got to make it up.
So I just looked real quick to see if because somebody in the chat says it was cat piss and bacon grease, and it
smells horrible.
That's not what's being reported right now. Right now, they're just saying that it was sprayed from a syringe. It had a strong vinegar-like smell, so that could be cat piss, and appeared light brown in color, but officials have not publicly confirmed. The assailant's name is Anthony James Kazmiriazak. Let me see. I hadn't seen this yet. Let me see. Pull this up. Do this in real time. Man arrested after charging Rep Ilhan Omar spraying her with liquid during a town hall. He squirted a liquid and was then tackled to the ground. The man, identified as 55-year-old Anthony Kazmiriazak, was arrested and booked into Hennepin County Jail on suspicion of third-degree assault. Where's his free bail, by the way?
He sprayed her with a syringe?
Yeah, apparently.
That doesn't feel like the best way to do that.
Right. The department says officers were at the town hall for an event. The incident sparked cries of alarm for those in attendance. I'm going to finish my remarks. Yeah, right. That's really all it says about him. We don't have anything about the guy yet. But interesting last name. Very Eastern Bloc. Yeah, so that's all we've got on that.
I mean, this is MAGA country.
That's all he was missing is and
he threw a Subway sandwich at her.
Trump 48, bitch. Something like that, that's what we were missing. Threw a Subway sandwich at her.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I thoughts and prayers for the Congresswoman. We, hope she's okay and that the next time she'll hire better actors.
What if the cat pee smell wasn't actually from the syringe? It was just from her house.
I don't know. Does she have cats?
I don't know. She looks like she's a cat owner.
She looks like she has cats.
She looks like a crazy cat lady. I don't know. All right, let's jump into this story here from the Associated Press. Man wounded after exchanging gunfire with Border Patrol agents near U.S.-Mexico border. A man involved in a human smuggling operation was shot Tuesday in an exchange of gunfire with U.S. Border Patrol after firing at a federal helicopter near the U.S.-Mexico border. Agents were attempting to apprehend the 34-year-old Arizona man during a traffic stop when he fled and shot at the Border Patrol helicopter. The suspect, Patrick Gary Schlegel, again, definitely not a Spanish name, was transported to a hospital and was recovering from surgery. Schlegel is expected to be charged with assault on a federal officer, human smuggling, and a felon in possession of a firearm. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Schlegel has a criminal history that includes a December warrant for escape stemming from a human smuggling and firearms conviction. On December 15th, Schlegel signed out of the institution in Tucson where he had been incarcerated to go to a counseling session, but did not return. Why are criminals being convicted felons, human smuggling, right, and a firearms conviction? Those aren't misdemeanor assault charges, right? Why are they allowed to check out on their own to go to counseling or whatever the case might be and able to escape as such? The guy had firearms as a felon and human smuggling. What the
day pass from prison?
Meanwhile, don't worry, Tina Peters still locked up for lying to bureaucrats.
Yeah, that was another thing about that interview that enraged me is that they were, giving him the Kirikou guy, it's like 40 years, and he was talking about how this is like, for the worst forms of espionage, the worst punishment that was given for whatever he was charged under, the worst punishment given was 9 months. And he was like, and they're offering me 45 years. And he also complained about being incarcerated with murderers and rapists and everything. Like he was supposed to be in white collar prison and he ended up in like regular prison and whatnot. And I'm sitting here going, it is so ridiculous what has been done to Tina Peters. when you consider the standards and all of the things that went into, really compounding what he described about John Brennan doing to him is exactly what the state here did to Tina Peters. The process is the punishment, and we're going to make this as painful as possible for you.
Yeah. One faux hammer says, as a crazy cat guy, I'm insulted by your sexism.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Also, apologies to all the cats.
He's totally kidding. He says "re" and then "keck" right after that. So I think he's joking around. Crazy cat guys do not exist, by the way. If you are a cat owner and you're a guy, you are a cat. You're a trans cat owner.
I don't think that's true. I think I think that's too far. You went too far.
I did go too far.
Yeah.
I owned a cat once. I owned a cat.
It's true for Canadians, but not. I'm just kidding. I just, when I find out someone doesn't like me, I try to make it worse.
I think cat owners are the most secure people in the world, though, because they don't need like my dogs. As soon as I walk in, my dogs go crazy. Cats are like, whatever. When it's time to eat, I'll come over there and pay attention to you. And the rest of the time, it's like, I'll do my own thing. Dogs got to be right up your butt everywhere you go. They got to be walking at your side. All right, jumping back into the article. Schlegel has a criminal history. We read that part. 2 years earlier, Schlegel was charged with transporting people in the U.S. illegally for financial gain in Arizona after he loaded more than a dozen people near the border into a truck, hit them under a tarp, and drove away. Agents followed the truck before Schlegel crashed and fled on foot, and then allegedly threw rocks at a government helicopter before he was apprehended. So he's upgraded from the rocks to firearms now in terms of going after helicopters. I'm just trying to picture this guy like throwing rocks at a helicopter, probably at least a couple 100 feet in the air, at least. And whatever the hell that is. But this guy,
was he prosecuted for throwing rocks?
Yeah. No, well, yeah.
Because that seems like something the government is just flexing on, like throwing a rock. Also, I'm a little bit sad that you did not call him Schlegel, like Schmiegel.
Schlegel.
Yeah.
Oh, we could go Schlegel. We could go Schlegel.
It's a little more fun, I think.
So let me just get this straight. This guy is a coyote transporting illegals into our country, puts them in a truck, puts a tarp over them, flees federal agents, gets in an accident. I'm assuming these people were injured. You got to have some injuries. I don't know how bad the accident was, but if you're in the bed of a truck covered up and you get in an accident in that vehicle, the chances of nobody being injured are slim to none. And this guy was allowed to check himself out of prison. Just, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
There's it's similar reaction to the people that have cell phones in prison and can do podcasts. Like, what is this that we're doing here? What type of incarceration is this?
Make prison great again.
Yeah.
Make prison hell again. MPHA. Mapa. That's how I'm spelling it. All right. Let's jump into this story now. Minneapolis got some developments out there. CBS News, 2 federal agents fired their weapons during the Alex Pretty. It's Pretty, by the way, not pretty. I kept saying yesterday Pretty, and then I would correct myself and say pretty, but it's Alex Pretty. Now, here's the thing. This
I like your pronunciation of that. It's pretty good.
Pretty good with an I or a Y. All right. So the only thing that I want to point out in this story, I mean, now they're saying that it was 2 agents that shot. That's in addition to the negligent discharge, which I still believe, based on the footage I've seen, was a negligent discharge. But I don't know if you saw my post on X this morning, Ash. Check this out. CBS News previously reported that federal investigators have no documented chain of custody for Pretty's handgun, with officials saying that the firearm was placed on the seat of a vehicle rather than sealed in a required plastic evidence bag and labeled with the standard identifying details such as date, item description, and handler name. You know where I'm going with that, Ash?
Where are you going with that?
Elections, man. Now all of a sudden CBS cares about chain of custody and how significant it is to prosecutions. What did I say to Stephen Richard when we interviewed him? What happens if every single transaction in the chain of custody of a murder weapon or something that's used in the commission of a crime is not thoroughly documented? They're going to use that for grounds of either dismissing the evidence or even dismissing the case.
Yeah.
And now CBS News is
and the murderer will get off. The murderer will not be convicted of murder for that because the process has been corrupted. The process has been poisoned. So it's not a just process. So yeah, you're spot on. Elections are exactly that.
Yeah. It's a facade. Smoke and mirrors.
They are fake. You know what another word for facade is? Fake.
Fake. I wanted to be a little more.
Say elections are fake. You're going to suppress the vote in the fake elections. Okay.
Yeah. Guys, let's take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor. Guys, if you or someone you know or someone you love, not somebody you know. Oh, wait, hold on, stand by. I'm getting told.
Overlap there. You might know people that you also love.
I lied. I'm getting told to stand down. We do have another sponsor, though, that we can talk about, guys. Everybody is talking about weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering blood sugar and reducing appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight but not interested in painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. Let's get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit takelean.com and enter promo code BADLANDS for your discount. Again, that's promo code BADLANDS at takelean.com. All right.
Absolutely. Take Lean. It's good stuff and it works.
All right. And then we can also talk about soft disclosure.
I don't say this lightly. This lotion changes people.
My knuckles would actually start to crack. Started using the soft disclosure lotion, and I am very impressed. Even within just a few days, I've noticed a tremendous difference.
That's not a script. That's what happens when something actually works.
It puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Yeah, that line keeps coming up. Because when you don't use it, your skin starts acting up.
Every single ingredient in soft disclosure is intentionally chosen. There's no filler ingredients. It is not like this BS product where they have a bunch of ingredients. Every ingredient listed is for a purpose.
Over 65-star reviews for the lotion alone. Not influencers, not actors, just people whose skin finally shut up. Soft disclosure lotion. Once you try it, you'll understand why people won't stop talking about it. Visit softdisclosure.com and use code BADLANDS and get 10% off.
Soft disclosure.
I love that ad so much.
It
we have
is
a new one coming out soon. We got our Valentine's Day ad coming out soon.
Very cool. Well, I will say, I talk all the time about how being a Florida guy, I've never really needed like lotion or anything like that. I do now because we've got really dry weather because of this cold front, and it's 66 degrees outside right now at 11 o'clock. That's very cold for South Florida. And I needed it because yesterday, like my hands were all white and chalky. And so I put soft disclosure on. I feel great. Yeah. All right. Let's jump into this story here from CNN. This is an interesting update in the Alex Preddy story. He broke a rib in a confrontation with federal agents a week before his death. It says immigration officers been collecting personal information about protesters and agitators in Minneapolis and had documented details about Alex Preddy before he was shot, according to a source. It is unclear how Preddy first came to the attention of federal authorities, but about a week before his death, he suffered a broken rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while protesting and attempting to detain other individuals.
Pause there for a second. Can we just talk about how ridiculous that first sentence is? Federal immigration officers are collecting information about protesters. Are you kidding me, CNN? As though that's something new, as though that's we live in a surveillance state, and certainly people with a history of assaulting law enforcement are going to have a record on file with law enforcement that they are a threat to assaulting law enforcement.
Ash stole my thunder.
Sorry.
No, you're good, because that's exactly the point I was going to make. It says a memo sent earlier this month to agents temporarily assigned to the city asked them to, quote, capture all images, license plates, identifications, and general information on hotels, agitators, protesters, etc., so we can capture it all in one consolidated form. Jump down here, and it says Alex Preddy stopped it. Well, and that's to the point that Ash made right there. They're kind of all over the place with this article. They go from mass censorship to Alex Preddy's story back to mass censorship. So hang on for a second here. Alex Preddy stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle, according to a source. Preddy later told the source that 5 agents tackled him and 1 leaned on his back, an encounter that left him with a broken rib. Agents released him at the scene. Quote, that day he thought he was going to die, said the source. Preddy was later given medication consistent with treating a broken rib, according to records reviewed by CNN. So before we get into the mass censorship story, we're getting information here third hand. It's not even well, I guess it's second hand. We're getting secondhand information here. The source is only informed by what Alex Preddy says himself. And according to Preddy, he was trying to help a family that was being detained by ICE, and he was doing nothing more than blowing whistles and shouting at them. That's it.
That's what they say about this one too, is that he was defending a woman, right? That was guess what? if law enforcement, and we may not like this. Certainly there's areas where I think this is overreach and the cops shouldn't be empowered in, to strip Americans of their rights. We're not talking about Americans, we're talking about criminal invaders. And also, doesn't matter as long as the law is the law. Until we change the law, if law enforcement is detaining someone, you don't have a right to go interfere and try and free them in the middle of that process. You will end up dead or incarcerated. Unfortunately for Preddy, he went too far, and he, didn't end up incarcerated, but he ended up dead. But it kind of sounds like he was open to that possibility and willing to put himself in that position because he was armed and I have no problem with the fact that he was armed, right? I don't believe in gun-free zones. That being said, the law, if there's a gun-free zone or a gun-free situation, right? Like wrestling with law enforcement, you have to disclose that you have a firearm if you're dealing with law enforcement. Certainly if you're wrestling with law enforcement, you don't disclose that you have a firearm on you when you're wrestling with law enforcement, and they find it during the wrestling, they're going to shoot you, and that's your fault. Right now, we might not like that law, and I can hear John Drake in my head calling me a statist for even suggesting it, but it is the law, and until we change it, that's how it is. We don't get separate rules and separate circumstances for white leftists, because if it was any minority group, it was any Trump supporter, no matter their color, it's anybody that has on the wrong side ideologically, they'd be cheering that the person was dead.
We have not even gotten to the part of today's show where I thought Ash and I were going to butt heads a little bit. And I think we might butt heads a little bit on this. You never have to declare to law enforcement that you have a firearm on you. You
really?
Don't have to.
In the middle of being detained?
In the middle of being detained? No, you don't have to.
Okay. Well, you're fucking dead, Brian. You're dead. You're being detained by law enforcement. You're on the ground. You have a fully loaded firearm and you don't disclose it, and they find it. They are right in thinking you are a threat because you didn't disclose it.
You're not saying that he was okay. What you're saying here is in the commission of a felony, he has to declare that he has a firearm. He might have to, but like, what's the law that in the commission of a felony? Because here's the thing, and I'm not justifying what he did and not declaring it. I'm saying that you're committing a felony. Like there's no holds barred at this point anyways. You're assaulting a law enforcement officer.
It's
whether or not you disclose
life and death.
Well,
disclosing it is the difference between life and death.
The point I'm getting at here is, a lot of people, and again, as a firearms instructor, a lot of people assume that when you get pulled over, you have a duty to disclose. And this is state law, by the way. This is dependent on which state you're in. In Florida, you do not have a duty to disclose. So if a cop pulls you over, you don't have to say, I have a firearm on me. That's more of the point I'm making. When you're in the commission of a felony, I don't think like you're assaulting the officer and you're like, hey, let's fight. By the way, I've got a gun on me. It sounds kind of stupid to me. Now, if they do happen to notice
you think
that
that's
you have a
stupid?
if they do happen to notice that you have a gun on you, if it's concealed, then yeah, you're absolutely going to escalate the spidey senses of those federal agents. But I don't think there's a law that like says like in the commission of a felony you have to disclose to the agents that you're carrying a firearm.
So there, in
It
certain
can be an
states, as
aggravating-
you already said, in certain states there is a duty to disclose if you're dealing with fire. But
in the commission of a crime,
when I said it's the law, I'm not talking about the firearm part. I'm talking about the interfering with law enforcement part.
of course.
The common sense thing is if you're going to get into a fight with police and because you're interfering. So first of all, the second he interferes, he's being arrested, right? That it should be the second he interferes with law enforcement making an arrest. I think you're frozen.
Am I? No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Now you're moving. I thought you were just like really angry at what I was saying because you were just like this like frozen face. So as soon as he interferes, he's opened himself up to criminal liability, right? You agree with that, right? Okay.
100%.
So as soon as he interferes and 5 cops swarm him to stop him from interfering and he starts fighting them, then he's going to prison for probably a long time. But the fact that he didn't disclose that he has a firearm is the difference between life and death. And it might not be in his state that he has to disclose it according to the law, but he's retarded and no cop is getting in trouble for shooting him, at least, maybe in Minneapolis where everything is retarded. But according to the law, the cop has the police, because he's interfering with their work, right? And he's doing it armed and has a record with them in hostile and everything. They know who he is, right? He's an agitator. The guy's not a hero. He wasn't trying to rescue a woman. He's an agitator. And it is his fault he's dead, in my opinion.
Okay, so you're making two different arguments here. You're arguing about the officer's reaction versus law. And you said
no, I never argued about an officer's reaction.
You said that if you get in a fight with police officers and you have a firearm on you and you don't like you have to
you don't disclose, you're going to die if they find it. Yeah.
Well, initially you started saying it's the law that you have to disclose it.
No, that I might have said it that way, but what I meant was the interference part is the violation of the law. If you're engaging in the commission of a felony and you've amplified it by being armed, right? Armed robbery is worse than robbery, right?
Correct.
Armed interference of the police is an enhancement.
It's an enhancement, exactly.
On interference with the police.
That's what I was going to say, is that it's an enhancement. So I think we kind of for the most part agree.
It's not an enhancement anymore because he's dead because he was stupid.
Well, I don't think that just because you have a firearm on you when you get into a scuffle and you resist arrest or whatever the case might be, I don't think that should automatically be a death warrant, but at the same time, the circumstances in that shooting, I think it's going to be absolutely justified, at least by the officers that pulled the trigger at Preddy and not the guy. If the guy walking away pulled the trigger on that gun, then he should be liable for the negligent discharge, whatever the law is for firing a gun in public. But yeah, I think ultimately it's going to be a justified shooting. Tragic. And if that gun did go off on its own, and it was, because I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday we played a clips of SIGs going off on their own.
I saw that I didn't see it on your show, but I've seen
that same exact gun. There's videos of it going off twice. There's 2 videos that we played yesterday of that SIG 320, the same model that guy had, going off in a police officer's holster as he's arresting somebody. And the cop bends down and boom, the gun goes off in the holster. His hands weren't even on the gun.
Didn't they show this particular situation? The cop that was holding the gun didn't have his finger on the trigger. I think it was you that pointed that out, right?
Yeah, it looks that way. But again, the clearest image that we have, the public, I'm sure they have the original source video without pixelation and compression and all that stuff. The only way that we're able to see is you can see the shadow of the trigger well on his pant leg from the sun. And there's nothing you could see clear as day, the outline of the trigger well, and then the trigger itself. And there's no obstruction in there. And that was like a fraction of a second after the shooting. And it looks like, I don't have my gun here with me today, but it looks like the cop is holding it by the grip below the trigger well, like his hand's not even on it with the finger straightened off the trigger. It looks like he's holding it below the trigger well in his hand, like in a fist.
Yeah.
So again, I think that we are going to find out that this was an accidental uncommanded discharge from that SIG P320. And if that's the case, this is one of the most tragic shootings that you'll ever see, because those cops that pulled the trigger, and you could say, I'm not talking just tragic for Alex Preddy, those cops, right? Those agents have that on their soul. And you might say, oh, it's a justified shooting. It doesn't matter. It is not easy to take another human being's life, you know, and this is one thing I always say as a Marine that went over to combat in Afghanistan. It's one thing when you're shooting at somebody trying to kill you and they're a completely different country and you're taught that that's the most evil person in the world and all that. It's still pretty heavy on you. Imagine when it's another American citizen, and you know, it's just it's very. This is going to be a very tragic end result here. If it was, you know, the SIG ending on its own.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's get into. Oh, by the way, we went way off, and well, not off topic, but off whatever. The source says that, quote, that day he thought he was going to die. So breaking a rib, he thinks he's going to die. So what does he do? A week later, he goes and does the same shit again.
Yeah.
It's a reckless disregard for his own life, if that's the case.
Suicide by cop, maybe.
Could be. Very well could be. I mean, it seemed like the guy had a good head on his shoulders. He was a nurse for the Veterans Affairs hospital system. So, I mean, you know, I don't know. Preddy was later given medication consistent with treating a broken rib. What the hell does that mean? What medication is there for treating painkillers? You mean he was given painkillers? That could have been for the bruising in his back. That could have been for slipping and busting his jaw. Like, what the hell does he was given medication consistent with treating a broken rib? I don't know. But here's where it gets, this is what we were talking about the censorship. It says a DHS official in Minneapolis sent a memo to ICE and HSI officers asking them to use a form to input information on protesters and agitators. The form, titled Intel Collection Non-Arrests, allows agents to fill in personal information of agitators and protesters who they encounter. Oh, you mean like a police report? Like any cop is going to do anytime they run into somebody that is either a witness, a suspect, firsthand knowledge of something that's going on. Again, you don't have to consent and give them your ID, right? But if you do, you've basically waived your right to privacy, and they're going to make a report on that. So it's not clear.
I just want to say there's a bunch of people in the chat saying either he was fired from his job at the VA or he quit his job at the VA. There was a story that went around yesterday that his parents said in an interview that he had quit his job months earlier. And then there was another story that came out that said he was actually fired for being inappropriate with patients. I was fact checking that last night for the brief, and it seems like both of those things are false.
Okay, so
he was employed at the VA at the time of his death, according to the VA.
Okay. All right. So it says it's not clear whether the federal agents who encountered Preddy on Saturday recognized him before they confronted him. Some Trump officials have spoken publicly about the idea of creating a database of protesters. Quote, one thing I'm pushing for right now, we're going to create a database where those people that are arrested for interference, impeding, and assault, we're going to make them famous. Tom Holman said on Fox News, we're going to put their face on TV. We're going to let their employers in their neighborhoods, in their schools, know who these people are. I think that went too far. You know, I'm all for them taking the intelligence, you know, gathering it, disseminating that to the agency and telling their, you know, having a database where they can go in and see people that were arrested, right? This isn't just, you know, a stop and frisk, right? It's not stop and frisk. This is people that were arrested being put in a database, which anybody that's ever arrested is going to be put in a database. Breaking news. But then Holman going off and saying we're going to make them famous and put their faces, their employers, and everything else out there. I mean, I don't know. That's, take it out of the context of where we're at right now, and imagine if this goes on for, you know, anything else. Like if
it did.
It did. Election fraud denying is the first thing that pops into my mind. Where they wanted to broadcast J6ers is another one. The sedition hunters, the FBI backed it, and so
they made them famous, and they contacted their employers, and they ruined their lives, and we all opposed it, right? And if we're talking about this for American citizens, I think that there are very heightened tensions. I think that there's a reason for that. This is a color revolution, and there's a lot of useful idiots being brainwashed by propaganda. It's unfortunate. But we the people have to decide what kind of world we want to live in. And I don't think we should empower the government to character assassinate and smear people and drive their lives into the ground. That's weaponization of government. We should have the rule of law. We should have equal justice under the law. We should have due process. And the government should not be in the business of character assassination, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. And, we were avidly against it during J6. Somebody brought up COVID in the chat. Another great example where if you didn't get vaccinated, you were put out there. They tried to destroy people's lives over this stuff. Election fraud, denialism, all the things under the Biden administration.
Parents' rights, the parents that not wanting their kids to be groomed by their teachers, people praying outside of abortion clinics. We don't need to. This is the Democrat Republican thing, right? They both want to wield the power of the state against the other. They want to wield it for different purposes, but they both think the state should have that power and that it should be a weapon that's able to be used. And I think what we want, I think consistently across Badlands and America First is, when we think about from a law standpoint, Americans first, the government should not have, federal or state, in my opinion, should not have that much power, right? The life destroying level of power that we see, it shouldn't be such a thing of value that people will, lie, cheat, steal, murder to obtain wielding that the power of the federal government, because it shouldn't have that much power. That's the design. That's the design of our Constitution, is that the government can't come that far. But we've abandoned that, and people don't know what the Constitution says anymore. A lot of these people out there screaming in the streets about criminally invading migrants being removed or saying they're standing up for the Constitution. I doubt they've ever read it.
All right. So I just got word that we need to try.
Yeah, Steph Asia said it perfectly. They're getting small government folks to root for more government. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I'm going to call an audible here because I want to cover what you just brought up. Brings me to another topic here, but I do want to get a word from this sponsor. See if it works now. We've been having some issues on our back end, but
that's what she
I'm
said.
gonna go through it, man. If you or someone you love struggles with blood sugar and A1C, you need to hear this. It's well known that those expensive meds and the popular shots have dangerous side effects. Well, Creator's Bounty has developed the perfect alternative. It's an herbal supplement called Elohetrium. Elohetrium is 100% natural formula that is proven to dramatically lower your blood sugar and your A1C. It uses 7 healthy ingredients, no stimulants, no junk. These 7 ingredients would cost you over $150 if you bought them all separately. Here's the best part. There are no bad side effects, only good ones. We're talking the sugar cravings gone, inflammation reduced, and stable energy all day with 0 crashes. Seriously, most people are getting better results than they did on the harsh meds, but without the risk. Elohetrium is made in the USA at an FDA-registered facility, fully tested, and is backed by a no-questions-asked 90-day money-back guarantee. The friendly folks at Creator's Bounty offer fast and free shipping 5 days a week from Oklahoma. Head on over to creatorsbounty.com/rumble and take advantage of this special offer today. There we go. And it worked. So I'm going to call an audible because, and I want to,
I actually don't have the playbook. So,
no, that's the best part is the defense never knows the play that's coming, but
I thought we're not on the same team.
We are, but we're in the same team in the sense that there's no winner and no loser. We're still, we're not.
You just said that you were going to call an audible, and I'm the defense that doesn't know the playbook. Wait, are we battling? Because I need to reorient.
It's been a battle the whole time. No, I'm just kidding. No, but what you had said. what you had said brought some interesting, about the doxing, and I agree that we shouldn't be doing that. But there are certain places, certain examples when you say things and there's going to be consequences. Now, should the federal government be doxing people and putting this kind of stuff out? No. But when you put it out in the public and the public says something about it, hey, that's fair game. That I have no obligation to the First Amendment. That is only to protect us from government overreach. It has nothing to do with me. So this woman here goes full-blown delusional.
I thought of something good. I think it's something weird spot. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever.
By the way,
What is that?
So it's a temporary paralysis drug.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a drug they give for like intubating people.
Look at the eyes.
Yeah. I mean, this is a nurse saying saline, which is no big deal.
I mean, that's just what that guy was doing with Ilhan Omar, right?
Let's keep going. She gets a little more crazy.
Ever. That will probably be a deterrent. Be safe. Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote. Anybody got any
Is that the same woman?
poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water, like a gallon of water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands.
Terrorism.
Are the single ladies where these ICE guys are going have a chance to do something, not without risk, but could help the cause for sure. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. They're an ICE agent. Bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks. Get them sick.
This is
Bunny says they're now investigating her.
She absolutely should be investigated.
She should be, yeah, but it's not. But according to the Bunny, they are. I'd never seen that. That's an escalation.
She works for Virginia Commonwealth, VCU Health, which is I don't know what the VCU stands for. It's Virginia, maybe it's Virginia something University. I don't know. She has been put on administrative leave pending an investigation. You literally called for drugging cops on duty, spraying them with poison oak on duty, and then entrapping them by going on Tinder, posing as an interested female, and then drugging their drinks. Like, anybody out there that would support drugging somebody's drink on a date with an unknown individual is a sick fuck that should be locked up and probably have like a scarlet letter tattooed across her head. Hey, I am absolutely sick. But imagine, like,
I think we could come up with something stronger than "Hey, I'm absolutely sick." But I like the tactic. Also, I got a little bit of shit for telling people that I tell my sons that bitches be crazy, which I do, and I'm not going to apologize for because it's true. And Brian just played the video.
What did I say in your chat on Alphas Make Sandwiches? Women don't even understand women and how crazy the level of crazy, or something along those lines. I'm not sure. Here's another case. And what is going on with nurses? We have Alex Preddy, nurse. We have that woman, nurse. This guy here, Eric Martindale, a registered Florida nurse, says he will not give anesthesia to Republicans undergoing surgery and believes that's his right and is ethical. He says, I will not perform anesthesia for any surgeries or procedures for MAGA. It is my right. It is my ethical oath, and I stand behind my education. I own all of my businesses, and I can refuse anyone. Actually, you can't.
What about first do no harm?
Exactly. You can't do that. Now he's saying that he's hacked. He's telling everybody that I was hacked. My Facebook Messenger. Here, let me pull it back up. Libs of TikTok is putting this out, saying Eric is now claiming his Facebook and Instagram were hacked. There's a slight problem. It was on Threads too. Was your Threads also hacked, Eric?
Oh shit.
Oh, how about just let's go with it. These people are sick and delusional. So,
Yeah, it seems like a lot in a lot of these cases that they are good at the commission of crimes, but they are not good at the strategy for the crimes or the covering up of the crimes. It reminds me that whole like, oh, my account was hacked. Well, wait a second, it's on your other account too. Were both of your accounts hacked? Yeah, totally. They both were hacked. My phone too, for those text messages that I sent, reminded me of the when the Somalis started trying to clean up their own messes and say, oh no, we totally have kids here now, and they brought in a bunch of kids. Well, at the same time, the Waltz administration is like, no, we shut them down. And like yeah, just let these people just let it play out.
I'm still like lost at the woman. Like, imagine being a woman and calling to drug somebody else's drink. Like, I hope that mindset is in the back of your mind every time. Well, it should be. Honestly, it should be, as a woman and as a man, in your mindset when you go out. Make sure you're protecting your drink. You don't want somebody slipping something in there. But I mean, that's where we're at now, that women are calling to drug men because they don't agree with deporting illegal immigrants, apparently.
Yeah. And so, if a man doesn't approve of that woman not wanting to have sex with him, he can roofie her, right? According to her logic.
That's her logic. That's her logic. I wasn't going to go there because it's harsh, but
if you don't agree, law be damned, you can do harm to other people if you don't agree with where they're at or what their position or what they make in their, what their autonomous choices are. You don't agree, then, that's the right you have, according to that nurse who deserves to be in prison.
I agree. All right. So, one of the good things that might be coming out of this, and we need to make sure that our side stays true to the Second Amendment absolutism, is that the left is coming around to the idea of carrying guns.
I mean, anger is absolutely the main emotion that we are seeing, George. They feel like they have a right to continue pushing back, and they feel like it is working. But especially they're upset because they feel like ICE has been everywhere. When I got to town, my team who had already been here said, don't rent a dark SUV. People will assume you are a federal agent because they're all over the place, and people will not be happy. You, of course, also have the immigrant communities. They are very afraid. There are people who haven't left their homes in weeks. And maybe, George, the most dominant emotion is dread. As long as the raids continue, the protests continue, and another shooting could happen at any moment. And especially after Alex Preddy's shooting, more demonstrators could potentially bring their own weapons under the belief they have to be prepared to defend themselves from federal agents who could shoot them. It is a very dangerous recipe. People are scared, but they're also resolute that they have to fight back.
Oh my gosh. So fight back is actually terroristic language. I had to defend that in federal court when I said, if we don't fight, we're going to lose our republic. And I wrote that down. And I was told that was intimidating rhetoric meant to make minority voters not vote or some shit. They just don't have standards, is my point. There's no principles. They just pendulum swings one way or the other with the argument, and they're just along for the ride.
Did you catch the way he said protesters believe they have to defend themselves? Like, he emphasizes defend themselves as if that is ever going to be a defense in court, or you're not going to be in court at the gates with St. Peter.
Is there anywhere in the United States of America where you have a right to defend yourself against a cop that is acting in his official duties, his or her?
I mean, you do, right? The violation of law. Cops can't violate the law. I mean, if you're walking down the street and a cop pulls a gun on you and points it in your face and says, get up on the wall. I mean, it's probably a good idea to do so, but if you turn around and defend yourself,
what's going to happen in that?
You're going to get shot. You're going to get
shot.
shot.
Let's say you don't, right? Let's say you get, tackled and arrested and taken to prison for resisting and interference and whatever else, right? Whatever, because 3 felonies a day, right? I mean, if they want to charge you with something, they can. Do you have, like, what happens if a cop gives you a command, right? Stop, don't flee, drop the weapon, whatever the command, right? And you say, nah, not gonna, I don't think you have the right to do that. I'm going to, and then the cop comes at you and you throw a punch in defense of yourself. What's going to happen to you?
It's going to be insanely difficult for you to defend that. If you take action against the cop, it is going to be
the cop. You're in self-defense. So the cop goes to take your arms and put them behind your back to arrest you, and you fight back.
Oh, that's resisting.
I know. This is my point. You don't have a right to self-defense when the cop in his official capacity is coming at you. You don't have a right. You do not have the right to defend yourself against cops while they're on the job.
Yeah, I get that. I'm saying I think there are extenuating circumstances where a cop is acting outside of the law, but you're going to lose that battle every single time, either kinetically with the cop or probably in the courts. If you take action. Yeah, that's a tough one, because and again, this is something like John Drake would say, yeah, if a cop is acting outside the scope of the law, then you absolutely have a right to defend yourself against that. Okay, sure. But what does that look like? Does that look like you shooting the cop and killing him? Because that's going to be insanely difficult for you to overcome to justify that. Yeah, Brett Hour brings up Ruby Ridge and Waco as well. We talked about those yesterday as well.
Yeah, and so there's a difference between idealistically what happens, right? There's a lot of people. Wahlberg says you absolutely do by natural law. Completely agree with you. We're not under natural law. Yeah. We're under whatever this nonsense is, where you're committing 3 felonies a day by walking around. And yeah, it's wrong that it's that way. And you can, if you get caught up in that, you can go to court and bring those defenses, bring natural law defenses, right? And in a real trial by jury system, badlandsmedia.tv/events, we're going to be doing a jury experience at the Next Guard in Nashville. In a trial by jury, true trial by jury system, the jury is empowered to say, you know what, you were absolutely justified, and that law is stupid, so we're going to nullify it, and you can go free. But we're not in that system. And that's why when we're analyzing events like what's happening in Minnesota or what's happening elsewhere in the country, I understand the idealist position. I agree with it. I agree with in the ideal. I agree with it. But if you decide that you're going to be idealistic while interfering with a cop, you're going to end up dead.
Yep.
And that's on you. Stupid games, stupid prizes.
Yeah, I agree. One more clip of them going full blown guns.
I want to bring back a tweet from Charlie Kirk in 2018. He says this: the Second Amendment's not for hunting, it's not for self-protection. It is there to ensure that free people can defend themselves if, God forbid, government became tyrannical and turned against its citizens. And I think a lot of people are pointing to this because, what we saw in the streets.
What did you, and again,
I love this. Let them go all in on the Second Amendment.
Charlie
That
Kirk,
benefits all
Second
of us.
Amendment.
I love it.
Let it happen. Because again, nobody can articulate
winding their own activism on this issue. Love it.
Nobody has articulated a case where a U.S. citizen has been killed or detained or whatever without first involving themselves in a situation that they should not be in and posing a threat. Now, Preddy is the closest one. Renee Good, I don't give a shit what you say. She drove her car at a fucking federal officer, period. End of conversation. Doesn't matter if she was scared, which she wasn't. Doesn't matter if it was an accident. Doesn't matter if, it doesn't matter, period. That is a weapon. Your vehicle becomes a weapon. There's no other cases. Now, there's cases where citizens have been detained temporarily. They're in, a mass, they've gone and they busted this racing track, this horse track, and they had a warrant to do so. They detained them temporarily. Once they found out they were citizens, you're good to go. That happens. Should it happen? Idealistically, once again, no, it shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah.
But outside of that, ICE has done their job. They're, and if you're going to sit there and defend illegals, then that's a whole different argument that we can make, and I don't necessarily agree with that one, but that
and just to the point of Charlie Kirk was making, and I saw some folks in the chat making this, and it's 100% accurate. Criminally invading migrants are not citizens. The government is not being tyrannical against removing people that don't belong here. But we really like them. But that's my dry cleaner and my nanny and my congresswoman. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if criminally invading migrants don't belong here. They are breaking the law. I believe they break the law when they come in illegally, right? If you're overstaying a visa, you're breaking the law. You don't belong here. And, until we change the law that says you can, criminally invade and stay and, that crime, we're going to look past that crime because, this is what we hear with, well, it's a civil crime. Being here illegally is a civil crime. Overstaying a visa is a civil crime. Entering the country illegally is a crime, like a crime, a real crime. And we don't get to pick and choose which ones of those we like and don't like unless we're in the jury box. And
we always use the example, like if you are okay with illegals coming over, just leave your house unlocked whenever you leave. Yeah, that kind of thing. Invite them in. Well, don't invite them in because that would defeat the point.
Didn't some white leftist woman do that? Like bring a bunch of migrants into her home and they murdered her.
I don't know. Probably.
Remember that?
It would sound about right. If you leave your door unlocked and somebody comes into your house, that's a crime. That is could be a felony depending on circumstances. So I'm with you that the crossing of the border is not a civil crime. They don't make that argument. In fact, they're starting to push back. They made that argument. In fact, I think CBS yesterday was like, yeah, coming across the border is actually not a violent crime, but a crime that you should be arrested for. But that brings up.
Don't move past that just because I know.
Okay, go ahead.
I really want to emphasize the point that ICE is not being tyrannical against American citizens in the state of Minnesota or anywhere. They are doing their jobs to remove people, and antagonistic terrorists are interfering and trying to stop them while they're in the commission of their official work. That's not ICE being tyrannical. That's Minnesotan leftists being stupid and getting the fruit of that.
Yep. So this is what is going viral all over the place here. De-escalating Minnesota. Trump teeters on brink of biggest betrayal since Bush. A move mid to de-escalate migrant crackdown. It says Donald Trump is facing a revolt from most of his loyal MAGA supporters over fears that the largest mass deportation effort in the U.S. history could unravel within the next 24 hours amid talks to wind down operations in Minneapolis. But there's now a palpable fear among Trump's most fervent supporters, a significant change in that they think they're moving towards a significant change in immigration strategy and which will lead to capitulation to the left. Immigration hardliners warn that any deal by Tom Homan that leads ICE agents to scale back their presence in Minnesota will be seen as a collapse of Trump's mass deportation agenda and a win for liberal protesters. Mike Howell, president of the Oversight Project and a longtime ally of Homan, is praying that his longtime friend won't strike any deal with the Democrats who run the state, saying, quote, the mass deportation agenda could be completely wound back within the next 24 hours, Howell told the Daily Mail. If Trump pushed back on deportations, he might as well pack it in. It will be the biggest betrayal to the base since George H.W. Bush raised taxes, the White House insider told the Daily Mail. The White House
anonymous sources close to the matter.
Anonymous sources close to the matter, trying to
granted anonymity to speak because they weren't authorized.
Trying to push MAGA to this idea that somehow, if ICE scales back operations in Minneapolis, that Trump is just giving up on the deportation effort. And all of this is stemming from this little segment right here, I believe, unless there's more to it, and I haven't been able to find more. But it's all coming from this 30-second sound clip.
Minnesota's in the news a lot, but what they don't say is that Minnesota has low numbers because of the fact that we took thousands of hardened criminals out of Minnesota. So they had good crime numbers, believe it or not. And that's all working out. We have Tom Homan there now. We put him in there. He's great. And they met with the governor, the mayor, everybody else. And we're going to de-escalate a little bit. But I will tell you, you look at the numbers, they're doing better than they've done in many years because we took thousands of criminals out of Minnesota.
We're going to de-escalate a little bit. That's like
an aside.
It's absolutely absurd. And
DeSantis people again. That whole, never Trump wearing a MAGA skin suit group that likes to always try and make us hate President Trump. Those people are becoming way easier to see too, right?
Those are the most fervent Trump supporters, by the way.
Sure.
It's all the Ron DeSantis crowd that is the most fervent.
Yeah.
I think that if President Trump does de-escalate in Minneapolis, it's for a reason. Me and Gordon talked about this on Tuesday. We said Bovino is kind of like the good cop, bad cop, the good cop, bad cop theory.
Yeah.
Bovino's the bad cop. He comes in and he fucks shit up. He just comes in and goes, you going locking everybody up, all these illegals, right? Doesn't matter what they're for. And what does he do? He's encouraging self-deportations. He's laying the operational tempo for that region. Then what does Holman do? He comes in and he settles down. He says, okay, let's settle this down. All right, we got all the hardened criminals out. We got all that taken care of. Now we're going to go after, we're going to continue operations, but we can scale back. And where are they going to do? They're going to move someplace else. Minneapolis is not the last place Trump is going to go. Those resources are going to be reallocated somewhere else. And I think that that's important because if this is a color revolution, which I firmly believe it is, does it escalate higher than that? That's the question there. They're going to have to expend resources to reallocate all of this infrastructure that they have set up right now in Minneapolis. They're going to have to reallocate resources in order to do it in whatever the next area is. And I hope they do it someplace far away, like go to California, although they probably already have infrastructure set up there. It'd be excellent if they did it someplace crazy like Florida or someplace in Texas, perhaps, where they might not have the infrastructure quite as robust as they do in California and some of the other blue states. But I think he's keeping them on their heels right now.
Florida, a hotbed of criminally invading migrants that the state government won't deal with.
Oh, yeah.
The state government is enabling.
No, it's not that they won't deal with them. It's that they can't deal with them. I mean,
why?
A lot of Florida Highway Patrol now has been, I don't know if they're actually deputized or not, but they are the functioning arm of ICE down here in Florida. Florida Highway Patrol is predominantly on the highways. So they're not in the cities like a lot of the places. Like Broward County would be an ideal place to come in and do that because our sheriff down here is a flaming liberal.
So hang on a second. Shouldn't that be the response? But I know that they can't deport them, right? State officials can't deport them, but they can detain them and notify ICE that we have unlawfully present criminally invading migrants here in the communities. Are they doing that or are they not doing that? Why would you need an Operation Metro Surge style operation in the state of Florida? I know why I would need one here in my state, because we're a sanctuary that's harboring these people. But why in Florida would you need a surge of federal immigration enforcement?
Same reason they need it in Memphis, because local government refuses to cooperate with state governments.
But why can't, state government has the opportunity to call in the National Guard. The government is empowered to call in the National Guard and deal with that problem. Why won't my question is, why is it on Trump, not DeSantis?
DeSantis has no balls. That's why.
Well,
DeSantis has aspirations to run for higher office.
Imagine if he was president.
Ugh.
Like if that whole thing had, like, we'd be eating bugs and living in container homes.
Yeah, that would be absolutely
if we were
terrible.
lucky.
I want to cover just a part here about the color revolution. Before we do that, let's just talk about our final sponsor. Guys, have you tried 1775 coffee yet? Now is your chance. The 1775 starter kit just dropped with only 1,000 units available. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom is not scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. All right, I want to jump into this story here from Just the News. Bring this country to a halt. Sarsour, is that how you say that? Sarsour?
Linda
Singham?
Sarsour, yeah.
Yeah.
Muslim
Network.
person.
Yeah, the students vow nationwide anti-ICE shutdown. It says a collection of far left groups led by Neville Roy Singham is attempting to organize a nationwide anti-ICE school and business shutdown with anti-Israel activist Linda Sarsour, whatever her name is, Sarsour.
I mean, I don't really give a shit if you say her name correctly, but it's pronounced Sarsour.
No, but
I'm not going to correct you about that again because fuck that bitch.
Just let me go. Declaring that, quote, we will bring this country to a halt. The general strike effort is scheduled for this Friday and is an attempt to replicate a Minnesota-wide anti-ICE shutdown, which occurred last Friday and which was organized by many of the same far-left groups. Did you even know there was a shutdown last Friday? I know they were talking about it, but has there been any implications from it?
No, I think it was probably overshadowed by that pretty good death.
Oh, maybe.
Or deaths.
Pretty
good deaths.
Pretty good. The pretty good deaths. Wow. You can't make this shit up, man.
Wasn't there another one? Wasn't there like another person that was shot too? I think maybe they lived, which is why we don't.
Yeah, the Venezuelans running, and there's the guy with the shovel that was swinging it at cops.
Yeah.
Shovel.
Also, not a thing you have. You don't have a right to hit federal agents with a shovel.
No.
Yeah, I can't believe it has to be said, but apparently it does.
The planned national shutdown includes plans for large-scale marches and a day of no work, no school, no shopping around the country. The Manhattan-based Marxist Revolutionary People's Forum, Breakthrough News media outlet, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Code Pink, and the Act Now to Stop War and End Racism are all involved in either promoting or organizing the nationwide shutdown effort. It's almost like we're starting to get the mapping for the color revolution that's going on right now. And just wanted to point that out. I think President Trump is going to pull a lot of people out of Minneapolis, a lot of agents. They're still going to be there operating. People are going to melt down over it. And those are all the fake MAGA, that just want to sit there and have something to scream about. Trump's going to pivot. He's going to move the battle to another front and make them come and fight on his terms. And that's what we're going to see.
I know we're out of time, but did you see the Newt Gingrich calling for middle ground?
That's why I thought we were going to fight, because I played James Comer saying the same thing yesterday. And I think there is a little bit of I would rather see, I'm kind of with Comer on this. I would rather see ICE and everybody going after the hardened criminals right now. We can go after, if you roll up people that are just, every day, well, not every day, they shouldn't be here. But if you roll up illegals that are just, going about their business in the, rolling up of a hardened criminal, then so be it. But I don't think we should be going and kicking in doors of, the guy that works at the Mexican restaurant down the street from you just yet. We'll get to that point. It has to get to that point. Or there needs to be something.
Short period of time. I feel like you've got to you have to rip the Band-Aid off on this thing. You've got to do it fast because the public support for it is only going to be in a short period of time.
I agree. And I think that's why the deportation incentives, the self-deportation incentives are actually a good thing, especially considering how much it costs to deport them in comparison. I remember I think it was you that was pretty upset when they said they're going to start paying $3,000 now. And it's like, yeah, but it cost them $17,000 per one detained. And, on its face, it does look shitty. You got Americans that are struggling day to day and you're paying these guys $3,000 to self-deport. Yeah, but it's saving the government $14,000 by not having to go after these people. Okay. And then it also maybe, if there's a way, it preserves their ability to come back and get citizenship the right way. And that's something that I do think we need to look at is the process for people getting citizenship. I don't think it should be a 15-year long process, 2, 3, 4 years. Sure. I'm all for it. Stringent testing and background and all that. I'm all for it. But yeah. All right. We gotta move on. Maybe we'll talk about that. I don't know. We'll talk about that at some point.
At some point.
Aussie Mix 73. Hey, Brian, I love straight across from you on the Gulf side of Florida. They're calling for 25F here on Monday morning. Holy shit. I think you mean live. And wow, that is cold.
He probably lives there too. Yeah.
Probably loves there and lives there.
Thank you for the rant, Aussie.
Thank you so much, brother. Or sister. I think it's a guy. Eden's refugee. The alleged Omar assassin looked impaired. Are we seeing a Blacklist episode play out? Terminally ill people paid to carry out ops. I think he just looked like a degenerate guy that needed a couple bucks.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't surprise me if they were using mentally ill people to do terrible things. She seems pretty horrible, and like she'd be okay with that. Just, based on the information available, she seems like the kind of person that would be okay with doing that. But I don't think we know. Thanks for the rant.
I'm definitely leaning towards that was staged. That was sketch AF.
Just the fact that she kept speaking afterwards, and I agree. Like, it does look like she looks at him, she nods at him, like now is the moment, right? But the response, she kind of goes at him, right? Like after him, which is weird. I would have had probably the same response if it was me. Like, no, screw these people. You're not going to stop me. We're going to keep talking. But at that point, security will carry you out if you're the principal. She's not just a random person speaking. She's a United States Congresswoman. And there's no way that she would have been able, right, if that was a real assassination attempt, that's just bizarre to me that they're calling. He squirted something on her.
All right. Kim 2 Ted says, I don't want surveillance for anyone. It will be used against us in the future. Absolutely. I said that yesterday on X, and I think on the show, that the signal chat thing that Cam Higbee put out, wait till you see them start calling for censorship on apps like that because of that right there. Steph Asia is now a monthly supporter. Thank you so much, Steph Asia. Bubba V Bird, thank you so much for all you do. And thank you. We appreciate the rants. Helps us out. Eden's Refugee. Yes, get the worst of the worst that they could use against us. We'll worry about Consuela and her lemon pledge later.
But what if you have, you're going to get the worst of the worst, and Consuela is there, and she's also a criminally invading migrant and doesn't belong here? Like, that's the thing is, do the laws matter or do they not? If we want to change the law to enable criminally invading migrants, if we really like them because they're nice, right? They get to stay, go for it. I don't think you'll get that law passed, but that's what you have to do. If, the whole system works on rule of law. If the law is subjective and we can pick and choose, then we don't have rule of law.
Be real quick on this one, because John's going to start getting in the chat and screaming at me. How do you feel about incentivizing an illegal that's law-abiding, Consuela with lemon pledge, ratting on a violent criminal illegal and incentivizing that somehow?
Like as a trade for citizenship or lawful.
Maybe not for citizenship, but maybe like a green card or something, temporary status, something.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the value of the intelligence, right? Yeah. Maybe. Then we already have those laws. We don't need new laws for that. That happens all the time.
Yeah, but specific to incentivizing, with some sort of temporary status.
I think they can do that now. I don't think you need new laws for that. I think that the DAs, they're empowered to do all kinds of stuff too.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Smash that thumbs up on the way out. Check out our sponsor, softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands. We've got My Mushroom Vibe. And thank you to Field of Greens Lean as well, badlandsmedia.tv.
TakeLean.com.
TakeLean.com. There you go.
Promo code Badlands.
TakeLean.com, promo code Badlands. We'll see you guys next time. Stay tuned. Daily Herald coming up in about an hour. It's like 56 minutes because we went over. See you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.